It's few of us here, but guys, let's please welcome Nareki. Եկեք սիրելիներ, մի պահ ծափարենք եւ Նարեկին ողջունենք, դեռ փոքր ենք ու քիչ ենք, բայց կշատանանք։ Եկեք ուղակի ծափարություններով։ Սիրելիներ, եկեք ծափարենք, սիրելի գործընկերներ։ Նարեկ ջան, մի քիչ քչացել ենք, բայց խնդիր չէ, համեցեք։
All right, so hey everyone, the last panel, you should survive this as well. So let me invite Diaz Yermagambetov to the panel. Hi Grigoryan, Arsen Bagdasaryan, and Artyom Shamtsyan. Okay. It's us. It's only us. Yes. All right. So I'll do in English, but some of my colleagues and panelists will do in Russian. Hope it's okay for everybody. So I'm Narek. My name is Narek. I'm the co-founder and CEO of this company called TCF and Prelaunch. TCF is a marketing agency considered one of the top 3 agencies in the world. We have offices in China, in US, and in Europe. And with Prelaunch, we are working with companies like Ducati, Audi, Bosch, and some others, helping them bring more innovations to life. And we have very interesting panelists here. I would like to ask our panelists to introduce themselves, and then we'll go with a round of questions. Yes, please.
Hey everyone, thank you so much for having us today. It's a big pleasure. My name is Diaz. I represent Big Sky Capital. It's an American venture capital fund. So we invest in 3 regions, Central Asia, Southeast Asia, and the US. The size of our fund is $20 million, and right now we're working on fundraising for our second fund, which will be 3 times as larger, and we'll start investing in more mature founders and more mature startups in general. We invest early stage, B2B SaaS, because we truly believe that B2B SaaS is the next, next potential for the potential investments, and that's what we do at this very moment.
Hello everyone, my name is Haik Grigoryan. I'm the managing partner of Sharp Machine LLC, which is a US-based hedge fund, early hedge fund that is essentially developing systematic equity strategies in mostly trend following, which are usually considered defensive strategies that work outside of the option-based sphere where you are just buying the insurance. So it's a specific field, but by nature of my work, I network with many LPs as well as with other GPs like VC funds, and it's my pleasure to be here and share my experience and insights with you.
Hello, thank you for inviting to this amazing panel. I'm Arsen. I'm representing of DataArt global company. I am founder of DataArt Armenia and DataArt Georgia, and we are in the business sphere. We are in the service and solution providing. It's a little contradicted with our panels because we are now we'll speak about the startups against of service and solution providers company, but I can prove that a lot of things starting from service and solution companies. That's from me.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Artyom Shamtyan. I am previously Chief Innovation Officer of Armenia Bank, and as a part of our digital transformation, we spinned off a separate company, which is called Dino, for creating fintech solutions around digitalizing lifestyle services in Armenia. Now I'm leading that company, which is still a part of Armenia Group and is focused on digitalizing beyond banking services, firstly in Armenia and then beyond Armenia. So we are in some, I would say, form a corporate startup, which was spinned off under a corporate environment, have access to corporate environment, but still behaves as a startup. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. We have a really good mix, I think, today, startup, corporate startups, funds, corporations, international corporations. So, the first question to everyone, how do you assess the viability of financial ecosystems in the country? And the question is, what do we need to have a really good ecosystem, financial ecosystem, where startups can evolve, develop, and prosper? You can go with this one.
That's a very interesting question, and I actually have one example. So there is a huge bank in Kazakhstan that is building a lot of ecosystems, which is called Freedom Bank. I just want to bring it up as an example because we are currently working with them in terms of investing in certain startups. And so what Freedom Bank really does is that it buys amazing and potentially good startups, and then they integrate it into their ecosystem. So I truly believe that if local banks, not only in Armenia but also in other emerging markets, will inspire and give a motivation to certain startups to grow within their ecosystem, that will actually motivate and inspire startup founders to build something amazing. And I truly believe that this is something that huge banks, huge corporations should be doing. They should be encouraging startups to be able to thrive in an emerging market. And I think one of the first steps that big corporations should do, they should always be supporting, because what I also see in the most Central Asian countries and also in the CIS countries is that they are kind of competing instead of being instead of collaborating. And I truly believe that by actually collaborating with big corporations and collaborating with startups, that's where the real growth will happen.
And also to double down on that, this gives startups an exit opportunity, which is, I believe, one of the main factors for this knowledge and resource circulation in the economy, right? Ike, what's your take?
Well, I'll come maybe from that point of exit opportunities and then mention that startups usually have a certain life cycle, right? When they got from the idea stage to the IPO stage. And when we talk about the financial viability and how the ecosystem is supporting them, we need to think about all these different stages where the startups are growing. For instance, in Armenia, I'll bring the example in Armenian financial ecosystem. There is still some challenges of for the next growth stage. Looks like we have a seed stage and pre-seed stage already established interesting ecosystem. But on the other hand, we do have quite developed by now pension systems that are the long money, right? And the long money by its nature needs to be matched to the long vision of the startups. And that is something where needs to be work done to make sure that both by regulation and by practice, the pension plans are more actively investing into the startup ecosystem. And that will allow more startups to get into the spotlight and have a chance to grow. So that's for the early stages, essentially giving a confidence of vote from the financial ecosystem in the country to their startups. The next stage will be as those startups grow, they need to be connected more globally, both with partners, suppliers, vendors, clients especially. And those startups, as we speak about startups, we don't think about them as some regular companies, right? We think about them as potential unicorns. And the market, global market, is extremely competitive. And really, to be successful in that, you don't only need to have a good product, you also need to have a good distribution. And that means that you need to invest in those relationships and developing those connections. So it's more subtle investments compared to just product investments. And essentially you need to show up in a global roadmap. And as part of that, I think bringing global conferences or regional conferences where people talk and interact and make those connections is very important, as well as those startups going outside and becoming part of the different hubs elsewhere, be in the region or in the US or Europe, East Asia, etc. And finally, on the exit stage, I think as we develop these kind of global networks, the fact that a certain startup is in a certain country, which is not the US, will be less. First of all, of course, the foundation is also very important. So regarding the regulatory system and the legal and all that parts need to be essentially driven up to the level that LPs, let's say from the US, are used to. So if they are sending them something that they don't accustomed to, it will already cross out in their due diligence process. So you need to align very much to these global standards. That's another pillar where both individual companies, unions, as well as especially the government needs to work diligently. Thank you.
I'm a bit, let's say, not frustrated, but I lose the question. Can you repeat the question?
The question is this. What do we need to have a really developed ecosystem for the startups to survive and prosper? Like, what kind of players do we need and at what level we are?
Okay. This is more clear for me. First of all, we need to define for us, all of us, what is the definition of startup? Because by having definition like startup is a small company that started with the 5 people and just doing some, let's say, not innovative project just for business, it's one step. Another step, when we speak about the startups, the company who has some idea, big idea that will be some game changer and so on, and it needs some, let's say, support. It's another story. So in this case, really we need to build the ecosystem. It's not the idea that I want to mention that not every startup get the success. We have the ratio. It's 1 or even less than 1% of startups have the success story and starting doing the business. And for supporting the startups, I think the ecosystem should be started with the support from the society, from the startup, from the, let's say, IT community. The second is the government support, who start to invest in this startup by believing the startup will have some great success stories. And the third is even the startup should be very precise on what they are going to bring to the country, let's say, to the society. So it's a mix of all those, let's say, things I have mentioned. And in that case, I think the startup ecosystem will be built. In Armenia, we are succeed, I can say it with the proud, that we are succeeding this path to supporting the startups. But we don't need to forget about how the startups start, where they come, what was the base of the startup.
Okay.
In my opinion, to accelerate the growth of startups, financial services should be easily accessible, and there should be a real ease of use integrating them. We really don't need to reinvent the wheel. There is a benchmark set by Stripe, let's say, for integrating the services. You don't need to go to any bank. You just open the account, you figure out how the integration works, you immediately test it, and then you just integrate it into your app. There are examples of banks that are covering startups, like a Mercury Bank in the United States, Tochka Bank in Russia, that are really providing tailored services that really make the startup grow, understanding your needs depending on what stage you are as a startup. So the key question is that we really don't need to reinvent the wheel. We just have to look at the best case scenarios which were already invented 4 or 5 years ago in other countries, and then adapt them to our infrastructure and our needs. Because many, I would say, behavioral needs of startups in US and in Armenia are not really that different. Okay, you are in a pre-seed stage, you are in a round A stage. These are pretty much the same needs, and they can be digitalized quite quickly. And seeing how much banks are now investing into, digitalizing their infrastructure, that should actually be expressed and visible in the form of accessible services, not just polished mobile apps of each bank, but really easily integratable, accessible, with the ease of use services that companies do use without really visiting any bank.
I totally agree, Artyom. I totally agree with you. And I think there are many ecosystems and financial ecosystems that we should take an example from. And in Armenia, a lot of things are changing, and we have a very viable and growing ecosystem. But especially banks are out of this development. I perceive it like that, because as long as you require a collateral for a startup or a digital company who don't have physical assets to provide like loans and then other services, etc., they will go and then incorporate in US and in other markets to get more easy access to the banks and financial services. All right, thank you very much. This was very interesting first roundup. A second question, Diaz, to you is that, when we say venture capital, everybody imagines kind of money, right? Like a big bank of money that they can get from you, from these venture capitalists. So what do you think? Is it only about money? And if not, then what else? And how VCs basically are helping startups to grow?
Thank you very much for the question. That's actually something that we always talk about. So whenever VC founders, startups, they come up to me asking, DS, can you have a look at our deck? Can you have a look at our data room? Here we go. And what I usually say, like, let's just, in the fund, what we call is, let's date first before getting married. So I always tell you, like, let's just go on a couple of dates. I have to get to know you first. And then if we see that synergy, and if we see that, we are actually bonding and connecting with each other, then of course we'll start, we'll elevate our relationships and come up to something much bigger. And it's not always about the money, in terms of investing. So we have right now around like 31 companies in our portfolio. And honestly speaking, with all the portfolio companies, we first, started being friends. We just started from just asking the real questions, like why you actually decided to do this in the first place. What was your motivation? How are you going to grow it? For example, just imagine if you're going to lose everything one day, how are you going to act? What you're going to do, right? So it's very important to actually understand the motive of the founder before actually investing in him. So I truly believe that investing in relationships is something that we really value. It's not about money for us, it's about actually investing in a person, because at the end of the day, the person who's actually going to build this project is like, it's a person, not a founder, not a startup, right? It's a person who will be building it, who will be going through the hardships, the challenges, overcoming all the obstacles along the way. And it's very, very important for us to know the person first. And then apart from actually investing ourselves, what we do is that we always, open doors. We always give our knowledge, we give our expertise, and we make sure that the projects that we invest in, they really succeed. So we don't just give money and disappear. What we actually do is that we make a lot of intros to other funds. We open doors. So for example, if they're hiring someone, we always make sure that we find that person. For example, whether it be a CMO, a COO, like a marketing manager, whatever, right? You name it. We always try to, sometimes we do get in the operational work, which we shouldn't really be doing. And we always actually, get on the boards of certain startup. That's one of the requirements, we ask for. And even though there are like only 2 partners in the fund, of course, we cannot manage 30 companies at the same time, right? So that's what we do in terms of, so we have our LPs in our fund, and all of our LPs are, very, high net worth individuals, top bankers, top executives, and they're always looking for opportunities to bring value to, to younger generations, to support founders. And what we actually do is that we give them opportunities to get on the boards of certain startups. And by doing that, we actually help them both. So for example, what does the startup get? It gets the expertise, it gets the knowledge, it actually gets a lot of network from that person, right? And what the our LP actually get on from actually being on that board is that apart from just putting I'm a board member, for example, at a certain startup, it actually so they actually learn from startup founders as well, because it's very important to actually work on the ego as well, because a lot of the times the founders who are building something, they are like, okay, I'm the boss now. I have the money. I raise certain, certain amounts of money, and then their ego just skyrockets. And that's when your board, especially your LPs, they humble you down. Yeah, exactly. That's what one of the reasons why we need a board members, right? So yeah, I would say I pretty much answered your question. So yeah.
Yeah, no, thank you very much. This was a very interesting answer. So it's far from being only money. It's expertise, network, synergies, and friendship, as you said. Heik, I wanted to ask you, like you tackled it a bit. Okay, we don't have lights. I think, okay, we have it again.
Time to go.
Yeah, we are getting some signs. I think we're about to conclude. So you touched upon this topic a little bit in your answer previously, but what do you think, what we need for foreign investors to invest in Armenian companies? Like currently, many Armenian companies, including ours, are registered in Delaware in US, and Armenians are not registering companies in Armenia if they want to attract investments from foreign funds. So what needs to be changed? That the hedge funds, family offices, private equities, VCs start to invest in Armenian companies incorporated in Armenia, maybe also in Kazakhstan and other post-Soviet countries. I think it's very common.
So so what you are specifically asking, so instead of Delaware-based companies, they invest in Armenian-based companies in terms of jurisdiction.
Like what will happen? So your fund, let's take your fund and similar funds. So what should happen that also you start taking into account companies incorporated in Armenia, not only in US and in other jurisdictions?
Well, the thing is, I guess it's a chicken and egg problem, right? Like you need to be on the map for the LPs and other GPs to be comfortable to invest in Armenia, and maybe if they have 1 or 2 success cases already, they will be already more willing to invest in Armenian-based companies. But maybe it's not a problem to think about it. Like maybe if Delaware is working by now, and it's a default choice, and it's easy to get there, why to bother, right? Why to have Armenian-based company?
The equity stays in Delaware?
No, equity stays with the founders. Equity stays with the founder who is, if he at the end of the day belongs to Armenian world, then he will reinvest in Armenia. It doesn't matter where the final income is. Armenian government from a tax principle might be interested more. Okay, create incentives, man. Okay, you can create incentives, that's one thing. Create a more aligned legal system. So even if it's Armenian, I mean, there was a case, one LP was coming to the event we were organizing. I was not a part of organizers, by the way, but was facilitating this process. And he got some contract with 2 languages, Armenian and English. Of course, it's written that English is the priority, but now he's confused. He had never seen English. Our letters are beautiful, yes, but what he got...
He couldn't believe that there is another language.
And so these are kind of also mindset change we need to have. There is always a conflict in Armenia with accountant and tax specialists that they want something in a very special way, like they have their own boxes, and now we have your boxes that our LPs are creating for you. LPs boxes at least bring money, and these boxes are creating for you some bureaucracy without much upside, you know. So, and in that sense, there should be more lobbying and more push to the government to standardize things. Like, I mean, even bringing the legislation English. Let's make it English-based. Why not? Especially on these areas, which is a global business. It doesn't matter where it's in Kazakhstan, Armenia, or in the US in some of the state. So if we align on that side, the understanding of the Armenia as a market will increase among LPs.
Okay, thank you. Arsen, so what you think? How can a corporation like DataArt kind of create synergies with startups, and what kind of opportunities and collaboration you see that a very established company like DataArt can support also some startups that are newly starting, developing? How you see these synergies helping the overall ecosystem to develop?
There is just one single word. It's a spin-off. What brings DataArt to Armenia? It brings technology, it brings some new things that are maybe known in Armenia, but not well known. But data art brings, with the being in Armenia, these new technologies. And it brings some culture, which is, again, our culture is based on, let's say, people first. It's just not poster. It's really daily work. We are concentrated on the treated people as one of us, being with them and supporting them. And people who are working in data art, they get some knowledge. They studying in some technologies, and then they decided to establish their own business, like in startup. And it's okay for us. They can leave data art and then have some success stories, and then back to the data art and start being the client for the data arts. It's really very important. In some cases, in worst cases, if they don't succeed in the startup, they can come back and be again the part of the data art.
People first.
People first, yes, exactly. This is the motto of data art.
Thank you. Artyom, you have this very interesting model of corporate startup, right? Usually it's corporate or startup. So, and corporate startups are kind of the mix of both. So what are the opportunities for the economy and also for other corporations to consider kind of establishing a corporate startups? Why would any corporation, like a big established corporation, would consider having a startup, which is a whole new different things, right? With the whole risks and uncertainties and everything that comes with the startups.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely true. There is like a mix of two words, corporate and a startup. But you know, like a startup are engines of change or a catalyst of change for a larger company. Because you know, like in a larger company, I take, for example, Armenia Bank as a successful bank, you still have this daily routine, existing business model, existing customer base. So you can of course say, yeah, change is very important. We have to reinvent ourselves, but it's really hard when every single day you do something that brings you success to come and really disrupt it. So you need some catalyst who don't have this burden of success of a bigger company that can do something on the side and then showcase or prove through results that this business model or this growth is actually quite viable. And then you can, say, integrate that into your core business model. Because, you know, like large companies, especially banks, they have to understand that they have some unique resources that greenfield startups don't have. They have immediate user base, they have immediate access to the capital, they have immediate access to the financial services, and when they combine all of that, that's actually quite, I would say, unfair advantage if you compare it with, let's say, newly founded startup. And if you give that freedom, and that's the key, to really trust that, you know, with all these resources, you're giving the freedom for this company to sustain itself, this magical combination can work. And then a large company can still leverage the existing business model as a cash cow, let's say, but then also creating a sort of an ecosystem of smaller companies that are leveraging the core resources and creating something new. I think that's a quite interesting model for Armenia, where we already see these, off-the-roof revenues, let's say, in the financial services? Because I believe this is a very interesting opportunity to reinvest those revenues.
May I add, well, one of the things is we can also give it back as dividends, joke aside. But I actually worked in a corporate startup. I worked at Allstate startup called Arity. What we were doing is trying to understand how risky the drivers are based on the phone data. And indeed, it's a part of the creative destruction you need to unleash into these companies, because otherwise they might just die as dinosaurs. In our case, just to give you a specific example, so when we were generating the signal of how risky the drivers are, we could have essentially the model where we were selling those signals, and that is in turn is creating a churn in the mother company, because now like less risky drivers that were paying premium there are able to decrease their insurance premiums. So on one hand, the model was showing, like financial model was showing that say, if we charge less than say $2 for that signal, we are essentially having a loss, because we are losing a retention from a retention on the Allstate. But on the other hand, other incumbents that are coming into the market and don't have that historical market share, they are willing to put in 50 cents. Yeah, so we'll be able to compete. So you just have to destroy yourself to reinvent yourself.
Interesting. Thank you very much. Very interesting discussion. The last question. So the last question is this, as the panel is about creating and evolving the startup ecosystem. So basically, if you would choose one thing, what you would choose and what you would change to have this drastic impact on startup ecosystem development in Armenia and maybe in Kazakhstan?
Okay. It's always things such complex are always multi-factor, so it's hard to highlight one factor. But I think we didn't discuss also education. I think education in a global, like more wider context, not about some skills or folks that are graduating university, but in terms of the mindset, how we are approaching our own life, whether we are using opportunities in the right way. Sometimes I often see cases when the opportunities, the person in front of you didn't even notice that he missed the opportunity. We have that Armenian tale, Angel Kmarta, which is actually really reflects that. So I think that could be one of the key to unleash more.
So education.
Education.
Okay. Arsen?
It's very hard to me to answer this question because I'm not a startupper. Maybe I was a startupper. I don't realize, because a lot of times ago when we have started some companies, within some companies, we just called it in Armenian Levi Gorts. There was no some kind of, let's say, startups, outsource, and so on. We're just doing some job for some guys who believe to us. And I think the main the main core is the trust. Build the trust. If you are trustable, it's okay. And be more flexible. Be ready to change in fly. I think it's one of the most important things for startups.
Okay, thank you. Artyom?
I think the most important question that I believe you should ask is, what's the purpose? Why you do that? Like, what really drives you? I think that's the question you should ask yourself. Not like because something is fashionable or there is a buzz around that, but really what drives you? Because I believe, now is the best time we have ever lived for creating new businesses and ideas. And especially with AI, where building something and prototyping something, you can do fully even without any technical experience. I think it's a remarkable time we are living in. The key question is what really drives us? Why we want to create things? What cause we truly believe? And that's the question that you have to answer and then understand that, change is already here. You can really, it's just remarkable what we can create today and how quickly.
100%. Yes?
Yeah, so I just wanted to wrap it up and finish it off. I truly believe that in order for us to actually grow those ecosystems, in order for startup founders to be really successful, and what I wish I had when I actually was building my first startup, I actually built and scaled a couple of businesses already. And when I was first building my very first startup, what I wanted to have is that maybe a mentor who would be actually, not at least like investing in me, but investing in me in terms of knowledge, in terms of, giving me the tips and tricks on how to act in certain situations. Because unfortunately, I made a lot of mistakes that I regret about when I was building a startup. I truly believe that by giving those opportunities to startup founders to actually, to study, to get the insights, right? For example, what I do right now is that because I've been there, I know how tough it is. Because startup game, VC game is a very long-term game and it's a very tough path. Not everyone can actually enjoy it. And because I've been there, and right now on my LinkedIn, on my Instagram, I always write some, tips and tricks and articles about how to act in certain situations, what to do. For example, when your business is failing, what to do when you are out of investments, what to do when you don't know what to do, right? And I truly believe by giving that knowledge and not being selfish in terms of giving to people, I truly believe that by doing this, we'll be able to give more opportunities to startup founders who are actually building their own startups. And I truly believe also that CEOs of huge banks, CEOs of big startups, companies, they should always be visiting those conferences and giving their knowledge, talking to founders, being more humble. Because unfortunately, startup founders, they think that if you are an investor or a VC, then you are somewhere here and I'm here and I cannot talk to him. That shouldn't be true. And right now, what I see in Central Asia, what I see here in Armenia, that people are being, more open. They're being more humble, which actually makes me very, very happy. Because back in 10 years ago, 15 years ago, unfortunately, those big investors, big names, they were very, their egos were up here, and it was actually very tough for young entrepreneurs to approach them because they were really unapproachable and they didn't want to share the knowledge because they were afraid that they're gonna, steal their ideas, become their competitors, which is not the case. I think that if you're gonna become a competitor of a huge bank, you will do it anyways, because. So yeah, that's what I wanted to say. Is just not being selfish of knowledge and always be a giving person. Always be, always share your knowledge. Always visit the conferences. Be humble. Talk to startup founders and just give. More giving and less, taking in front of startup founders.
Amazing. Thank you very much, our panelists. Very, very, very interesting discussions. As Artyom mentioned, an incredible time to start the company. Maybe one of the best times that we have ever harnessed and witnessed. There are many challenges, as our panelists mentioned, but if you find your purpose and if you find opportunities, nothing can stop you. Right? All right, let's applause. Thank you very much. And conclude our panel with this. And then we are here. If you have any questions, we can kind of discuss.
Thanks, this panel discussion. I'm presented Yerevan State University and FinTech Armenia Association. And my question for you, especially Armenian side. What's your opinion about integration IT sectors with real sectors and financial too? Because I understand our IT sectors work on outsource and very weak connected with real sectors. The same was actual for new companies, startups too. We discussed this issue with, I remember with Arsen many times before that. And what's your perception for that?
It's I think it's thank you for the question. Well, it's a global question. I think it's relevant not only for Armenia but elsewhere. So I welcome you also chime in. You know, the in real sector often it just the executives or owners of these companies might be less open to new ideas just because their industry has been more traditional, less dynamic, and all of that. That's why. But it doesn't mean that if they want to, they cannot open up to technology opportunities. For instance, the other day I was in western part of Armenia, southwest of Sardarabad. There were like hundreds of hectares of nuts, walnut, almond, and the owner is very enthusiastic as well as he knows he's open-minded. So he was actually trying to deploy drone technology to look at the orchards from top and see any diseases or anything, and that's a solution that he can develop in his own farms and then make it some technology that everyone in the world can use. So I think that's a part where you just and by the way, also there's another thing is happening is the technology is accelerating so fast that right now the needs from the real economies are high, like in terms of energy. These GPUs are using huge amount of energy to generate tokens, and so the question now becomes maybe the bottleneck in the energy technologies is an issue rather than the amount of GPUs, and that in turn will trigger more innovation in this sector of economy.
All right, thank you very much. Arsen, you want to answer it, or you can?
Just one reply on this question. What is the IT? When we are speaking about the IT is a tool. It's just a tool which is helping us to use in some specific domain to bring this domain to the right place and to be more, let's say, good in performance and so on. IT, it's not a magic. We need to have good, profound people with the great domain knowledge in IT who can use the same AI for helping, for creating, for getting answers to his questions. So my thought is we need to have great, profound, great engineers with the profound background who can use the IT, the same AI, for their needs.
All right. Thank you very much. And with this, we conclude our panel today.